I'm Margaret Long, and I am a member of WidowsWalk4Women, which is part of the American Sailing and Diving Club. And I want to talk to you about my path of how I got here. About 2.5 years ago, my husband very suddenly died, and my world changed forever. I was totally devastated. I'm probably like most widows in that your whole life is wrapped up in your children and your husband, and then suddenly he's gone and a whole way of life is gone. And I was totally and completely lost. And then my cousin decided he needed to help me because I was totally shattered, and he introduced me in the American Sailing Club. And from there, I learned to scuba. I live in the suburbs of Kansas City, Missouri, in Lee Summit, Missouri. My husband and I were together 37 years, married 35. We have one son who lives in St. Louis, Missouri. My husband literally just dropped dead in front of me. There was no warning at all. I was devastated. If it weren't for my son, I don't know what I would have done.
And how did you handle his death? What did you do? What did you actually do? What are the types of things that you did at that point? I mean, what part of your world's changed?
Everything about my world changed. For the first probably 3 or 4 months, I did nothing but sleep. I was so devastated by his death. It was so sudden that I did nothing but sleep for 3 or 4 months just to escape the entire thing. And all my brothers and sisters would call, and I come from a large family. And they would all call, and I would get up and answer the phone, and I was doing all right, and my son would call, and everything was just fine. And then I would get up for about an hour, and then I'd be all sad, and I'd go back to bed. So the first 3 or 4 months, I didn't do anything but sleep. And then I came to the conclusion that wasn't solving any problems. I couldn't sleep forever. So then I started leaving home because I couldn't stand being at home. There were too many reminders. So then I started doing a lot of traveling, and I would travel all over the place.
You had friends, and you had couples that were friends.
They did. But when my husband died, my whole way of life died. Everything died. Our whole life was wrapped up in friends, couples. A lot of these couples were, my husband was a stunt skier, and that's how he kind of paid for his way through college and graduate school, and he still did that some on the weekends, and we still had all the same friends from when they used to do all this stunt skiing together, and we had been friends forever. But when he died, it wasn't the same life anymore. Me just hanging around with other couples, I mean, I felt uncomfortable, and then they were always a constant reminder that he wasn't there anymore since he was, and they didn't know what to do, and they didn't know what to say, and they'd invite me on trips and different ski things that were going on, but I just didn't feel comfortable. I felt like I was a third wheel all the time, and I was a burden to somebody, and I didn't want to be a burden to somebody. So that's when I started kind of getting away from everything and traveling to see different friends down in Florida. I took a trip with my sister to Canada, and it was all avoidance again. And I was never home. And every time I would come home, I'd be home about a week. And after a week, I thought, man, I can't be here anymore. And I'd take off again. And then I was just shattered. My whole way of life was shattered. He became insistent that I come down to Florida, and he introduced me to scuba diving and sailing. And it was wonderful for me. It was a whole new way of life. It's so different. It's beautiful, it's different. It was a whole new set of people. They weren't constant reminders of my other life. I started taking scuba diving lessons.
Were any part of the scuba diving difficult for you?
Yeah, they were. I'm not exactly a spring chicken, but you know, we each are really pretty unique, and for whatever reason, I seem to be extremely right-side dominant. And whenever I would be in the pool and I would start kicking with these big flippers on, I would literally turn to the left and kind of go in circles. It was rather amusing, actually. And I'm small, and I had just an unbelievable amount of trouble with the weight of all the equipment. You know, you'd have 15 to 20 pounds of weight around your waist, and then you'd have these huge steel tanks on your back, and then they would say, okay, you need to, the initial training was in the swimming pool, and they tell you you'd have to get, all right, climb out of the swimming pool, and it was everything I could do to get up the steps because there was so much weight on me.
You overcame quite a bit of it.
Yes, I did, but I started working with weights to work on my left side. And we had one experience when we went in training that the winds were really, really strong, and the boat was really rocking and rolling. But I overcame all of it. And the captain, when I came back after that one exceedingly rough day, the captain of that boat, I came back the following day, and he goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe you came back. I've never known anybody to come back after an experience like that.
Oh, I love
it. And he said, I've never seen anybody come back after an experience like that. And I went, well, you don't know me. And he just laughed. But I've had nothing but wonderful experiences since then.
Well, what did we do? We got you a little tiny aluminum tank, didn't
yes.
we? You don't need much air, so now you have a little tiny aluminum tank.
Well, I guess because I'm so small, I don't use that much oxygen. In fact, on some of my trips, I would go out, and you start out with 3,000 psi, pounds per square inch, of oxygen, and everybody else would be down to like 800 or 900 pounds, and I'd still have like 2,100 pounds left. And so Jay decided that I could probably go into one of these half-size tanks, which is not as heavy for me and much easier for me to handle, and I do just fine with it.
So what field did you retire from?
I used to be a secondary science teacher. I taught biology, chemistry, and physics, junior high or high school, depending upon the year and what city I was living in.
And you retired after how many years?
32 years. I taught 32 years, and when my husband passed away, I had been retired for 10 years when he passed away.
Got you into diving, okay, and my bossy nature. You wanted to go sailing really bad on what's the name of the boat? The Genie Green Electric?
Yes.
And you have some involvement in that and support in that. And you've been able to kind of bless the organization a little bit with different elements of the boat, and you've seen it now as a sailor. So what is it that in my bossy nature, once again, I was doing a crossing of the Gulf of Mexico from Marathon to Pensacola, Florida. Okay, so what happened? What did you do in the last month and a half to prepare for that trip?
Well, I decided that if I were going to be doing this crossing, that I needed to be able to know what was going on, what to do, how to help, how to protect myself or someone else. I mean, if somebody falls overboard, I wouldn't have known what to do. I mean, you've got to be able to take care of yourself or help protect somebody else. So I went to a class that was sponsored by the American Sailing Association, and I took the first 2 classes of sailing. There was a lot of studying, a lot of book work, tests, and then half the day you did book work and studying, the other half you did sailing. And I passed their first 2 classes, and then I went back over to Florida, and we took the all-electric Jenny Green across the Gulf of Mexico. There were 3 of us that were at the helm, kind of like 24/7, sailing across the Gulf of Mexico, and it was an experience.
Feel like you climbed the mountain? It's a little bit like Mount Everest, wasn't it?
Yes.
so there's even a couple of days that you didn't see land, but most of the sailing with the Genie Green Electric is inside of land.
Yes.
Most of the stuff you've been sailing is in the Keys and Marathon and on the west coast of Florida. You've always been able to see land. This is just an exception to the rule. Mm-hmm. You know, and for those exceptional mountain climbing type people, okay, then Genie Green Electric crossing isn't necessarily the most dangerous thing as long as you're prepared.
As long as you're prepared, yeah.
So what would you say in summation, what would you say that how your life has changed over when you started this journey, when you started this discovery?
You know, when I started this journey, which was probably by a nice little shove by my cousin, it's been a wonderful adventure. My life has changed completely and totally since then. And as I've gone through this journey, and I'm kind of coming out on the other side of it, what I began to think is, if I could go through this, and if there is any way that I could help someone go through their grieving process without the pain and being so lost trying to find a new direction as I did, if there was any way that I could help different widows see another path, to be with other widows, to help other widows. I think we all have so much in common, no matter whether you're warning that your husband's going to pass away, whether you don't, any feeling for it. The idea is, though, that your life changed totally, completely, and you have to completely and totally start over. And if there's any way that I can help someone through that process, that's what I want to do. And that's what Widows Walk for Women, it basically is all about. This branch off of the American Sailing and Diving Club, that's really what it's all about. And I became involved with this with the idea that I wanted to help somebody else, because my journey was very, very difficult. And if there's anything I can do to help somebody find a new path, to find new friends, a new direction, then I want to do that, because it's kind of become my new quest, I think, because mine was really, really rough. And if I didn't have my cousin, I still don't think would have found my way. And so if I can help somebody else, that's what I want to do.